Okay, David, what do your GodBumps feel like?
Hmm. Yeah, my God bumps. What do they feel like? Well, the one that comes to mind is actually, I think you called them God tears.
Mhm.
And um, when I was reading a book, a memoir by Christina Amelog, the What My Brother Knew called, and I was reading her story and going back into her childhood and seeing all the things that she's overcome and feeling like I was there with her as she was discovering how to heal from trauma and to overcome adversity and build resilience. And my heart opened up and expanded on my chest, and kind of the back of my neck kind of got warm, and tears started coming out. And it's just opened up so much energy flowing in my body.
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what did that feel like emotionally?
Mm. Well, there were a couple emotions in there. So one was sadness and grief as I was feeling the kind of things that she went through with her brother dying unexpectedly, and um, her going through just a path of lots of tight corners and hard places.
Mm-hmm.
And so sadness and grief, and then love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big couple emotions there.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sweet.
empathy. Yeah.
Okay, so do you ever experience anything like this when not reading that book?
Elsewhere, yeah,
Yeah,
elsewhere.
other times.
Um, let's see. It's funny. Yesterday, I was hiking through the forest here in Mendocino,
Mm-hmm.
and we stopped at a tree. This was such an interesting moment. Stopped at a tree that looked like it was dying,
Mm-hmm.
and there were mushrooms up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped, and I was just like, wow, what are these mushrooms doing? And I had this realization that this tree was dying, but it was being taken care of.
Mm.
Like the breakdown of the tree was actually, it's like the forest around it was saying, we got you, we got you. We're gonna recycle the nutrients. We're gonna take everything and bring it where it needs to go. Like, you can die now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just broke down in the same quality of tears,
Mm-hmm.
of just like being in awe of
Mm. Now I'm
of
getting GodBumps right
yeah, yeah. It was a beautiful
now.
moment. It was just just beyond words, in the sense of just the miracle of life, and how we're held. Whenever we fall into her arms. My teacher Mark often says, we fall into the arms of the beloved who holds
Mm-hmm.
us. And I mean, the great beloved, the
Mm-hmm.
great spirit, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that was a moment.
Okay. So, how often would you say that you have these, let's call them GodBump experiences?
Hmm. Probably every few weeks I have these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also sometimes I have like several days at a time when I'm in
Okay.
prayer
Yeah.
or chanting,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times in nature when I'm hiking.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the places I experience it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, when was the first time you experienced these GodBumps?
Hmm. Well, the first time that I remember just off the top of my head was when I was in high school, and summertime in Shaker Heights near Cleveland, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
in hot summers, 90-degree weather, humid, 80% humidity in that area. And I would ride my bike around the lake. There's a horseshoe lake, it's called, in here in Shaker Heights. And I would I would have these moments of timelessness where I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was riding my bike, but I wasn't just me riding the bike. I was being ridden. It was like reality was riding with me in a certain sense, and I was connected to something larger. And I remember just this timelessness that opened up, and I would have little tears coming out of my eyes. Yeah.
Cool. What would you say brings these God bumps on?
What brings them on?
Yeah.
Well, in a certain sense, it's a mystery. In Christian terms, it's grace in a certain sense. Like they're just gifts from the universe, and in a certain sense, it's practice too, right? It's like it's a two-way street, if you will. God blesses with gifts all the time, and there's some times when I'm receptive and open to receiving them. And so it's kind of this magic formula of whenever it happens, it happens. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay, so how long would you say they last? Seconds or minutes or?
Probably the first burst is seconds, like seconds, but then there's like an aftertaste where, minutes and maybe even hours. It just sort of slowly recedes. Yeah.
Okay, is there a way that you can invoke them or bring them on?
Yeah, Christine and I were actually talking about this. Our teacher Mark taught us a practice he calls the 90-second wow practice, where we just open our arms and just say wow.
Yeah.
And I could just feel it right now in the sense there's sort of a quality of awe that comes pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any questions or finishing comments about this God bumps?
How would you say they're most evoked, these God bumps? Is there a general practice that you use to evoke them?
Yeah. I go outside and I hold my hands way up over my head like antennas, and they start coming.
Yeah. It's like your wow practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David. This is very helpful.
My pleasure.